Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
I know it's come up on the podcast more than one time, but Aaron, you and I have different backgrounds, work backgrounds, that is.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we could go into our personal lives too, but where you've worked on larger teams inside of larger companies and led those teams, and I've tended to work with smaller teams or kind of more in a solo role or small organizations. And the reason I'm saying all this to preface it isn't to just make a random observation, but to kind of set up the topic for today, because I was thinking about this idea of when you're interviewing a developer. So whether it's to hire somebody or whether it's to bring on a subcontractor or anything like that, there's different ways and different ideas on how to gauge what is this person's skill level. Not like, are they a good person or not, right? But just like, what do they know? Where are they at? So I can make a proper evaluation. And so knowing that you've done this a lot in the past, I've done interviews, different types of interviews. I wanted to interview you today and ask you some questions. So I promise I'd make it specific. So I guess my first specific question is, when you're interviewing somebody and you're kicking things off, obviously you want it to be kind of a relaxed environment. You're not there to grill them or to trick them or anything. But what do you find is kind of a productive way to start a technical discussion to gauge somebody's skill level?
Well, the first thing I do is I actually read their resume or I search them.
Okay.
Before the meeting. There's a lot of people that come into them blind, or they're like, "I'll learn what I need to learn when I'm there,"
Okay.
which is not setting you up to be successful.
Yeah.
And so, talking about success is, first of all, I approach interviews success focused. I approach every interview as, I want to hire this person, not I want to find ways that they don't fit.
Sure.
Now,
Right. Okay.
you think that is what we all do, but if you're real honest with yourself, there gets this blood in the water sort of thing where you're just like, oh yeah, I can't wait to be better than them, or whatever. There's a lot of these different things that can happen, and we all do that, or we might be a little insecure, or all those different things.
Mhm.
So I look at everything first of all, and I say I want to be success focused. In order to do that, I have to know a little bit about that person because I want to remove some of their guards. Because
Okay.
when I really know a person and we can break down some of these initial guards, then we can find out a lot more stuff about them, and they can be more forefront and say these things. And now this isn't just about like, would they fit in a team? This is about technical skill.
Yeah.
So I do some research and I find out things they're interested in. Are they very commonly publishing stuff about programming? Are they in music or whatever? And I'll use something like that to kind of start out the conversation, showing that even though I'm going to ask a bunch of technical, tough questions, I'm not a robot. So you don't have to respond back to me like a robot.
Aaron Bot 3000 conducting this interview. Yeah, that's a good point, because I can imagine being on the other side of that interview. Yeah, it's a little stressful. Like, they're applying to a job, or they're putting themselves out there because they want some new opportunity. And so I could see that fear of failure and coming at it in a constructive way. So I was also thinking, like, if you learn about them, their interests, their experience, like the sorts of things maybe they've published, other than just kind of like small talk, would you use some of that? I don't want to call it a softball question, but like maybe a warm up question, like something they have experience with and they're going to feel comfortable answering to get started.
Yeah. If they're applying for a Vue job, Vue programming or something, but
Mhm.
they published a bunch of React stuff, I might say, hey, so first of all, tell me a little bit about your React experience. What made you really get into that?
Okay.
And so, because I know that React and Vue are similar enough
Yeah.
that if they're really good at React, they're going to be good at Vue after a little bit,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So like I might ask some stuff that's not about pertaining to the job, but I empathetically try to come up next to them and say, hey, we're in this together. We both want you to work here. Let's see if you're going to be a fit. I'll use some of that background information. The other thing, which now I'm giving away my secrets,
Do it.
but I try to figure out. I'm not trying to say I'm awesome, but you have to be a pro to use this technique. Is I try to learn from anything they have out in the world what kind of communicator they are,
Hmm.
and whether they're an excitable person or a very quiet person or whatever,
Okay.
because that tells me then how they're going to answer their technical questions. So it helps me learn how to put the proper filter in there. So if I am interviewing a programmer who is always on Twitter, always talking, super friendly, whatever, I need to make sure that I don't fall for their charm when I'm
Ooh.
interviewing them and asking them technical questions.
Okay.
Vice versa, if I find someone who maybe even sometimes is taken like angry, if they comment on like
Hmm.
stuff and then people think they're angry or they're never out there, maybe their answers are going to be a little bit quieter or slower, or they're not going to expand.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing, just means that that's maybe their style
Hmm.
of communication. So instead of thinking that maybe they don't know what they're talking about, I just know that they need to be asked over and over until they expand further.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, kind of having a baseline of their communication style. I can see how that'd be a useful thing. Now, I imagine the types of technical questions you ask would be different if you're hiring somebody for a junior position versus a senior position. But
Mhm.
maybe kind of thinking more about the senior position. Um, and let's assume that the company has some sort of basic vetting process. So you don't have to. I really don't like the gotcha style,
Mhm.
code this algorithm for me type thing. So let's assume the person has proven a certain level of competency, but you kind of want to get into their thinking. Like, how do they approach a problem? How do they deal with something that maybe has more than one possible right answer? Do you have any tips there for how to kind of tease that out of a person, like how they approach something without putting them on the spot, with some like giant complex problem they haven't had time to think about?
Well, that's a good question. I think that's one that many people have. I'm going to sort of sidestep that, but also answer it at the
Okay.
same time. Is one of the things that there's a challenge is like, how do we measure technical prowess? Do we give them coding challenges or all this kind of
Mm,
stuff, right?
yeah.
And so there's been some very crappy companies, but there's also just been some stuff where they actually give you a coding challenge that's work that they need done.
Oh no.
Well, I would never do that, right?
Okay.
But that's why people first of all get turned off by coding challenges a little
Yeah.
bit. The next thing is like, well, if I'm applying to 5 jobs and each one has a coding challenge that takes 2 hours, that's 10 hours of extra work I have to
Right.
do. And you think about it as like, if they're doing those 10 hours, can they really be then doing their core job? Even though I know they're shutting off from their core job,
Mhm.
if they're going to leave my job, I don't want them quitting and spending 10 hours doing interviews. I
Yeah.
want them
Yeah.
to at least do the work until they're gone. So I don't want to do that to another company either. I feel like that
Yeah.
stuff kind of what goes around comes around.
That's fair.
Um,
Yeah.
and so what I'll do is a lot of times I'll give them, I'll find a project in a language that they're good at,
Mhm.
and I'll send it over to them and say, we're going to walk through this code, usually a week ahead. And I'll
Okay.
say, like, tell me some good things about this, tell me some bad things about this, or let's do a code review on a pull request or something. I'll do that. And I give them that week. And what that allows them is the flexibility to determine how they want to continue with the
Hmm.
process. They can spend some time looking through the code, or they can do nothing at all and only like look through the code on
Sure.
the call with me. And
Right.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing nothing at all. Honestly, I've done that a few times when I do the code reviews. I'm just like, well, I guess we'll just do this now.
Yeah.
But it allows them to work in whatever framework that they're going to do the rest of their job in.
Mhm.
So if they have a bunch of free time in their life because they don't have a family, whatever it is, right? They're going to have more free time to look at that code and review it and make notes. And that's going to be the type of work you can maybe expect from them. Whereas maybe if they have busy and they're from a family, they'll have a lot less time to work on your code challenge, which means they'll probably have a lot less time to do extra stuff throughout the week anyway. So
Yeah.
it's just a different type of worker, and
Mhm.
I want to know what the type of worker is. What is their availability? Not that there's anything wrong. I just want to know so I can
Yeah.
fit them into my team, because I don't want all 10 developers to be crazy people who only program and only do that. But I don't want all 10 developers who
Yeah.
don't have any other free time in their life. They couldn't possibly read a manual unless I gave them time to do it. I
Sure.
want a nice mix.
Hmm.
And so when I give them that flexibility, I can then say, okay, well, not only do I get to see during our call when they review this what they know, but I get to see kind of, how much where they are in their life versus their career.
So would you? I like that. Would you give them some code to review that's actually from the code base that you're hiring them to work on, or would you find like an open source project? Like what? Where would you pull that from?
That's a great question. absolutely an open source project that has nothing to do with what we're working on.
Okay. Okay.
Because I want them to know clearly that has nothing to do with any of the programmers that they're going to work with, so that they
Mm.
can be honest. Because
Okay. That's
there's
true. I didn't
like,
think of that. Yeah.
yeah, because like you can't come in. I mean, it's different for us because we're consultants usually, and we're
Yeah.
brought in to give people the business.
Hmm.
But when you're trying to join a team,
Yeah.
it can be really delicate balance. Do I say bad stuff about this? Well, I don't mean bad about the programmer. Or then you have the situations where they find stuff, and maybe the programmers are like, "Yeah, we know that's there, but you boss, you won't let us fix it." You
Right.
know?
I just think it'd be even worse. Like I, as the interviewer, like this is my code. Okay, now review it. Give me an honest
Right.
opinion. So like be super awkward. Okay, yeah, I like that. And that even that idea of giving it to them in advance. Not that you're requiring them, and not you're not throwing homework on top of them. It's just an opportunity. Like, hey, if you want to spend a little more time looking at this, great. If not, we'll look at it together on the call. That's super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I've went through all the different processes with like asking technical questions, all those different
Mhm.
things too. And honestly, that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You rarely spend any of your day asking someone real quick, how do you print? What's the parameter list or array string match or print R or whatever?
Right. Right. Yeah.
You spend most of your time having communication with them, reviewing code, understanding how they think. So technical stuff can be taught if someone's open and willing.
Yeah.
You really just need to open and willing people.
Right. Yeah. And like you mentioned before, the communication style.
Yeah.
I thought it might be funny to pick whatever like the Twitter drama of the week is and have them weigh in on that. Like I don't know if you saw like, recently there was all this discussion like should you ever use final classes in PHP? And I'm just like, I ignore that stuff. I don't really care. But that'd be kind of a spicy interview question. Usually after lunch every day, I take a short walk around our little neighborhood here. It's kind of like a,
And by walk, do you mean nap?
oh no, that would be much better. No, actually walking. And I'll even do it like in the dead of winter. But anyways, it's good exercise. It's mentally, I think it's good to get away from the computer a little bit, just kind of reset. Um, but the other day I was walking, and I think I counted. There's about 30 houses on the route that I walk. And I just started counting, and 26 of them all had something in their driveway that just like for some reason it struck me as weird. And I want you to guess. I'm putting you on the spot, Aaron. What do you think that was?
uh, a garbage bag?
No.
You?
Yes, I was standing on everybody's driveway. No,
No, I don't
okay.
know why.
A basketball hoop. And here's why it's weird. Okay.
Yeah, how's that weird? How is American, good old America with a basketball hoop? How's that weird?
We've lived in this neighborhood over 10 years now. So I know pretty much who lives in every house.
Mhm.
And I would say there's maybe of those 30 some houses, like 6 that have kids. And I can only think of one house where I ever see anybody using the basketball hoop. And you know what? I'll include myself. We have a basketball hoop. I'm like, why do we have this basketball hoop? Like nobody uses it. So I was just wondering if there was like some secret charter in this neighborhood. Like when you build a house, you have to, sometimes I'll have the covenants in different neighborhoods. Like you have to have certain color shutters. And like maybe here
Right.
it was basketball hoops. So like big basketball hoop is running our neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah, Shaq owns the neighborhood, and I was like, I need to have something to do at every house.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if that's weird. I can relate the whole like watching or looking at patterns. I
Yeah.
used to go walking downtown when I lived down there, and I'd go to one section of town which was a bunch of row houses.
Okay.
And I'd walk past them, and there was like 14 different houses on this block all lined up, and they were maybe different colors, but they were just two different styles. One had a
Mm.
gable on the front, and one had flat. And it alternated starting on the beginning. So it was like gable, flat, until like the last three. Then it was like flat, flat, gable. And I was like,
Ooh.
oh, why do you guys do this? And like it would bother me even as I'm walking past. And I don't know why. I'm like, this means nothing to me. But I'm like, oh, if you guys would have just planned. Oh.
And now it bothers me too. Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Maybe you don't want to interview someone and hire them. You just want the project done. Well, we can help.
Head over to nocompromises.io and book a call with us.